Please welcome to the stage the Wilson Awards Gala co-chair, member of the Global Advisory Council and president and CEO of CorePac Group, George Waldenberg.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm honored to serve as co-chair at the 2022 Wilson Center Awards Gala. I serve as a member of the Global Advisory Council and chair of the Waldenberg Initiative on Building Trust in Supply Chains. The more I learn about the work we do, the more I commit to increasing my involvement. Without a doubt, this organization, especially during these difficult times, is key to the future of the world. For me, this engagement has led to meaningful projects that tackle some of today's biggest challenges. On a recent trip, as part of the U.S. delegation to Doha, I was able to experience firsthand the profound impact this organization has in building connections around the world. This is the Wilson Center's brand, exceptional and nonpartisan, that responds to real-world problems. I am happy to have the chance to honor this legacy tonight. This evening, the Wilson Center has convened many of its key audiences, including members of Congress, administration's officials, dignitaries, and leaders from the private sector, many of whom have generously sponsored this evening in this event, including the Walt Disney Company, Ernst & Young, Goldman Sachs, Lockheed Martin, Cisco, SC Johnson, General Motors, Controlled Thermal Resources, American Insurance Group, Infineon Technologies, Manhattan Construction Group, Pernod Ricard, and Visualogics. And now, I am pleased to introduce Ambassador Mark Green, President, Director, and CEO of the Wilson Center.
Thank you, George, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to this year's gala. I have noticed as we were coming in, we have a pretty feisty crowd here tonight. A wise man once said that the three most important rules of speech making are be sincere, be brief, be seated. I will do my best to follow that, and I'm assuming all of our other speakers will be as well. So tonight's gathering is precisely what Congress hoped for when it created us some 50 plus years ago. As George said, that original charter language said, our job is to strengthen the fruitful relation between the world of learning and the world of public affairs. Tonight we have with us members of Congress, diplomats from around the world, heads of government and state, business leaders who believe in the power of innovation and private enterprise, and scholars and fellows covering just about every corner of the globe. We have some of our trustees here tonight. You'll hear shortly from the chairman of the board, Governor Bill Haslam, Ambassador David Jacobson and BMO Financial, Drew Maloney of the American Investment Council, and Tim Pataki. We have our international co-chair of the Wilson National Cabinet, Don McClellan, and awards dinner co-chair, George Waldenberg, of whom you just heard. Like all of them, we're gathered here tonight because we believe in the power of knowledge and we believe in the energy of ideas. We all believe that if we set aside the spin, if we put aside politics of the moment, if we refocus our efforts on the pursuit of knowledge, if we reaffirm the importance of independent thought and objective analysis, why then there is no challenge that we cannot meet. Tonight we will honor individuals who embody this philosophy in their leadership and work. Each of them is using his or her work and roles to lift the human condition, and you'll see what I mean shortly. Two last points as we get going. I want to offer my sincere thanks to those who have made tonight possible through their generosity and support. Secondly, I would like to recognize our program directors who are here this evening. If our program directors could please stand up for a moment. You are supporting their intellectual curiosity and work, and you should be very, very proud. And now it is my honor to invite the chairman of the Wilson Center Board of Trustees, Governor Bill Haslam, to come to the stage. Governor?
Thank you very much. It really is a pleasure for those of us involved with the Wilson Center to see the crowd that's gathered here tonight. I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege. And first of all, you met Mr. Woldenberg earlier. It is June Woldenberg's birthday. Not sure what number it is, but June, happy birthday. We're thrilled to have you with us. I also want to welcome Brian Hook, who's with us tonight. The key word when Mark introduced me was former governor. The Australians have a saying, used to be a rooster, today a feather duster. And I've entered the feather duster stage of my career, but like a lot of you, I've become increasingly frustrated and exhausted by our current politics in this country. I could take a show of hands, but I'm willing to bet that I would get 100% of folks who would raise their hand and saying, yes, I'm kind of frustrated and exhausted by the whole thing at this point. What we're trying to do at the Wilson Center is actually solve to the problem instead of add to the problem. We're trying to provide real-world database solutions that people on both sides can move toward and actually say, again, we're gonna instead of trying to burn the place down, we're actually going to try to build it. That's what we're a part of tonight, and we're thrilled that you're here to be a part of this. One of the things the Wilson Center likes to do is recognize corporations who have been what we call outstanding citizens for the country. You know, if you've been around in this country for a while, there used to be a saying that what's good for GM is good for America. World might have changed some during those days, but I would say that our honoree tonight has actually flipped that on its head. And she would say that what is good for America is good for General Motors. And Mary Barra, who became the CEO in 2014, spent really, I think she started out as a college intern. Did you tell me that? Started out as a college intern. So she is General Motors. She knows it, she breathes it, she lives it. And she's committed to this idea that not only do we have a responsibility to our shareholders, but we have a responsibility to the greater community that we call home. If you think about where the challenge we're in the middle of right now as a country, with supply chain issues, labor challenges in terms of availability, and trying to make a massive change from a combustion engine focused company to an EV focused company is a degree of difficulty that was the Olympics they would give you a 10 for. But Mary has taken that challenge head on because she recognizes that her responsibility is not just next quarter, but it's for the long-term future of General Motors as well as the country. And it's for that reason that we would like to recognize her and General Motors as our corporate citizen honoree tonight. And if you would turn your attention to the screens, we have a short video to tell you why we think they're the right honoree.
Change is coming. There's a light out from the sun. A new time, a new day, a new world is coming. And I can
think it's incredibly important that General Motors has taken this step towards EVs. We're talking about one of the world's most iconic companies here that will cause other people to stand up and say it's time. We're going to follow their lead.
Change is blowing like the wind through the trees. The wheels are spinning and life is in motion. And I can see a light shine through the leaves. A new spark of new light is on the horizon. We're making the world a better place, one bed at a time. And it starts right now. It starts right now.
Please help me welcome the corporate citizen honoree for this year, General Motors, and their CEO, Mary Barra.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much. Every time I watch that video, I always get a little choked up because I look at the opportunity we have and the responsibility that we have to really change the world. And it's very kind of you, Governor Haslam, for your wonderful introduction and also the strong support you provided to the auto industry while you were governor. And Ambassador Green, thank you for your lifelong leadership and commitment to diplomacy. It truly is a privilege to be here tonight with such an esteemed group of honorees. I'm inspired to be among so many leaders who share a passion for working across industries, nations, and importantly, across party lines. At General Motors, we are on a path to transform mobility and prove that technology and innovation, when driven by purpose, can help change the world. Guiding us on our path is our vision to create a world with zero crashes, zero emissions, and zero congestion. Our role is not just to direct our own company's transformation, but to lead and influence others. We really have a once in a generation opportunity and a responsibility to take everyone on the journey to a safer, more equitable, and zero emission future. And we are well on our way to making that vision a reality. The investments we are making in electric and autonomous vehicles are fundamentally changing our business, our industry, and society. Like many of you in the sectors you lead, there are challenges we still face, and the past few years have certainly tested our agility and our resilience. From the pandemic, to supply chain issues, to civil unrest, and now a tragic war in Ukraine. Our communities are persevering through this adversity. And I'm proud of how our committed and talented employees at General Motors and our business partners consistently rise to the occasion and creatively meet challenges with short and long-term solutions in the US and around the world. During the pandemic, we used our engineering and purchasing and manufacturing expertise along with our suppliers to build more than 30,000 ventilators in 154 days, along with personal protective equipment for our employees, healthcare workers, first responders, and schools. Recently, in addition to employee and company donations, our team built 50 full-size SUVs that were successfully delivered across the Ukraine border to help the Polish authorities. With the help of the Polish authorities. The vehicles are being used to transport civilians out of active war zones and provide humanitarian aid. And as you all know, the reason we are here tonight is that none of these achievements are possible alone. We continue to work across the industry, with governments, and of course, with our people, the people who get important jobs done. I want to thank the Wilson Center for your collaboration and your dedication to independent research, open dialogue, and actionable ideas. Particularly the work being done to strengthen North America competitiveness through meaningful free trade policies and relations, securing critical supply chains, and advocating for technologies that will transform our industry and enable our vision for an all-electric future. So again, on behalf of all members of General Motors, I want to thank you for the work which reflects the type of collaboration that is key to our shared success. And together, I really believe that we have an exciting road ahead. So thank you very, very much.
Please welcome Ambassador David Jacobson, member of the Wilson Center Board of Trustees and Vice Chair of Bank of Montreal, to the stage.
I think I am one of those feather dusters that Governor Haslam talked about. First of all, I want to welcome everyone here and thank you for coming. It is my privilege tonight so dark I can't read it, so it doesn't matter, to present an award to our next honoree, the Prime Minister of Greenland, Múte Oilu. Before I invite the Prime Minister up here, I want to take just a moment to talk about his accomplishments. First of all, he has, okay, we're going to do it this way so I can see what I'm doing. This was really eloquent when I wrote it. We take a moment to recognize his accomplishments and his dedication to the policies that emphasize environmental justice. Okay, there we go. Okay, we got all the tech. We got all the tech worked out. All right. Earlier this year, the Prime Minister wrote an article in the Wilson Center's award-winning journal, and if I can't brag about the Wilson Center tonight, I never can. The award-winning journal, the Wilson Quarterly, and that article was entitled "The True North." And in that piece, the Prime Minister described his government's role with respect to Greenland in particular, but more broadly to the Arctic in general, in a sustainable and a fair economic future, and to achieve that goal through the support of alliances and the power of alliances with countries around the world, including the United States. His vision is consistent with the long-held view of the Wilson Center's Polar Institute on the importance of alliances in order to advance the agenda of the new Arctic. The Prime Minister symbolizes the spirit of the Wilson Center's award and for his leadership in alliances, and therefore it is an honor tonight that we present that award to him. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming and in congratulating the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Múte Oilu. I'm sorry, Prime Minister of Greenland. Not enough light.
Good evening. It is a pleasure to be with you all tonight on such a special occasion as this. I am honored to receive the Leadership Through Alliances Award, especially in such distinguished company. I would like to thank Ambassador Green and the Wilson Center for this great honor and for the close cooperation we have had through the years. Our collaboration on events such as the Greenland Dialogues that we had today is what is at the essence of building bridges and creating alliances. I would, in this regard, especially like to thank Mr. Mike Svaga and his team at the Wilson Center in their tireless efforts in working with us to promote Greenlandic and Arctic issues. I am proud to say that Greenland over the years have established many alliances with good friends around the world, many of which I see here tonight as well. We hope to make these alliances stronger in the years to come, and I would like to acknowledge a good friend of Greenland, Senator Murkowski, also receiving an award tonight. Senator Murkowski has played an important role in promoting both Arctic and Greenland issues in the States and creating cooperation benefiting the region. Your efforts have certainly not gone unnoticed, and we thank you. The Greenlandic people have thousands of years inhabited in the Arctic region and have found ways to adjust and survive in this harsh and continually changing environment. This was only possible by working together as people, using strength and talents for the greater good of the community. Surviving on your way was not possible. We had to work together. The same holds true for today. As we look at the world today, the need for building bridges and alliances with like-minded countries and partners is the only way forward in order to secure future that we can feel proud to pass on to our children and grandchildren. This is especially the case for the Arctic region, which is being affected by the current climate changes in a serious and tangible way. As I mentioned in my speech earlier today, climate change is affecting our way of life and is threat to our communities. What happens in Arctic in this regard does not, however, remain in the Arctic. With rising sea levels, change in ecosystems, and opening for new sea routes, it is becoming increasingly clear that the future of the Arctic region reflects on the future of the rest of the world. Increased collaboration and alliances in the Arctic is thus of great importance, but what is even more important is that collaboration involving the Arctic always includes the people living in the Arctic. We should participate in the decision in Arctic matters, as the Arctic is our home and our lands. And we have much to contribute when being among the decision makers. Greenland will continue to work towards building bridges and important alliances now and the years to come. And I thank you once again for this award, encouraging us to take our place as a leader in the Arctic. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the screens for the William Monroe Trotter video.
The Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars William Monroe Trotter Leadership Award celebrates the life and accomplishments of its namesake.
The story of William Monroe Trotter and his willingness to confront President Wilson over racial segregation offers us important lessons from history. First, it points out that Wilson, like so many other leaders of his time, was full of contradictions and, yes, shortcomings. Second, the courage that Trotter showed in bringing his protest to the Oval Office offers us an example of what real leadership looks like.
Born in Hyde Park, Massachusetts in 1872, Trotter received graduate and postgraduate degrees at Harvard University. He was the first man of color to earn a Phi Beta Kappa key there. A real estate businessman in Boston, Trotter became an outspoken activist for African American civil rights and an editor of the Boston-based Guardian newspaper. In 1905, he joined W.E.B. Du Bois in founding the Niagara Movement, a precursor to the NAACP. Until his death in 1934, Trotter fought for the equal treatment of African American soldiers, presented demands for civil rights in France after World War I, and fought for federal anti-lynching legislation. Trotter's story is also critical to understanding the often overlooked contradictions of the legacy of the 28th President of the United States, Woodrow Wilson. As president, Wilson appointed several segregationists to senior positions involved separating federal employees by race, firing numerous black officials, and restricting black people's opportunities for hiring and advancement. In 1914, Trotter confronted Wilson during a meeting over his administration's expanded segregation of the federal civil service. Speaking for a delegation of black professionals, he informed Wilson that separation and distinction marking is something that must be a humiliation. Wilson defended the segregationist policies as preventing racial friction, declared himself offended by Trotter's tone, and ejected Trotter from the White House.
By issuing this award, the Wilson Center is recognizing the important contributions that Black Americans have made and are making to the formulation, implementation, and analysis of American foreign policy. I'm extremely proud of the Wilson Center for taking this step and look forward to the other steps that we'll be taking in the future.
This award memorializes William Trotter's legacy, his tremendous bravery, visionary fire, and preemptive leadership as he fought long and hard for justice, equality, and civil rights in the face of a divided America.
The mission of the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars is built on learning and knowledge. We are proud to offer an award named in honor of William Monroe Trotter.
Recognizing the inherent strength in our country's diversity and reminding us that our history, though painful at times, must be addressed unflinchingly, the William Monroe Trotter Leadership Award is adorned with his lifelong credo, "For every right, with all thy might."
Please welcome Director of the Wilson Center's Refugee and Forced Displacement Initiative, John Thon Majoke, to the stage.
As mentioned, I'm John Thon Majoke, Director of the Wilson Center Refugee and Forced Displacement Initiative, which aims to expand the space for new perspective, sustainable solutions, and constructive dialogue on issues affecting the displaced people and their host communities. In the late 1980s, I was one of the 20,000 unaccompanied refugee minors who became known as the Lost Boys of Sudan. I recall a time when a delegation from the United States Congress visited us in Panyindu refugee camp in southwest Ethiopia. We were taught to chant this "Welcome, welcome, American congressman." We did not know what an American congressman meant then. However, it meant something after I came to this country through the U.S. Refugee Resettlement Program, which opened the door of opportunities for me and my colleagues. That is why I am honored to be here today to present the William Monroe Trotter Leadership Award to an American congressman, the Honorable Gregory Meeks of New York, for his effective, principled, and common sense leadership in the U.S. Congress. As chairman of the U.S. House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee, Chairman Meeks is the first black member of Congress to chair that committee. He also co-chaired the House Caucus on Malaria and Neglected Tropical Diseases. He is a champion for many important foreign policy matters, but we at the Wilson Center here know him for his dedication to lifting lives in Africa. Described as a multilateralist, he believes that we are more successful when we do certain things in a multilateral way as opposed to a bilateral way only. The African Growth and Opportunity Act, known as AGOA, is one of many multilateral projects that Congressman Meeks has been a champion. In his recent congressional delegation trip to Africa, Chairman Meeks commented, and I quote, "My singular focus has been to make sure Africa moves from the back to the front." As a coalition builder, Chairman Meeks has and continues to work with colleagues in Congress and other countries to change lives, create opportunities, and build a stable future. I could not have imagined as a young child refugee then that today I would stand before you to present this prestigious award to an American congressman. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the recipient of the 2022 William Monroe Trotter Leadership Award, Congressman Gregory Meeks. Welcome, American Congressman.
Well, I got to tell you that just listening to John's story is inspirational to me. When you think about where he started and where he is now, it just reminds me of, there's a song, when I was a kid by an artist named James Brown. He said, "I don't want anybody to give me nothing. Just open up the door and I'll get it myself." The door was open for John, and now we see him here with the Wilson Center. How great is that? I am truly honored to accept this year's William Monroe Trotter Leadership Award. But let me first give thanks to Governor Haslam, who as governor was an example of just what you talked about, of trying to bring people together so that progress can be made and the United States continue to lead as the world's greatest democracy. I want to thank you for your career and thanking you for continuing here at the Wilson Center. It's an honor to have you as its chair. And to Ambassador Mark Green, who I've seen, he doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. Whether he was a member of Congress or head of USAID, I can't think of a better person you could have selected to be your CEO. He works with everyone. I mean, you could see when we go on, at the time on Codell's, he didn't make a difference whether you were a Democrat or Republican or where you came from in the country. He was working, and you're talking about someone who was dedicated to making someone's life better, to changing things and changing the course of their lives. Ambassador Green, I salute you and thank you so very much. So, by making this particular award an annual and a yearly tradition, you're not only highlighting African Americans in foreign policy, but highlighting the crucial work being done to increase diversity in the foreign policy space. So I stand here today because of the work of those who came before me, on the shoulders of William Monroe Trotter, whom this award is named after, and on the shoulders of so many other trailblazers who paved the way for people like Patricia Robert Harris to become our country's first African-American woman to serve as an ambassador, or Susan Rice to be the first African-American woman to serve as a U.S. ambassador to the UN, or Colin Powell to be the first African-American Secretary of State, or Secretary Austin, our first black Secretary of Defense, or Kamala Harris, our first black and first South Asian American vice president, and of course, because of Barack Obama, the first African American president of these United States of America. And there are countless other trailblazers. Some of them served before me in Congress, some who I have had the pleasure to continue working alongside, that have propelled us to where we are today. And so I gotta give a shout out because I wouldn't be anything without them. You know, I think of one of the greatest opportunities that I had being a member of Congress, and that's having the opportunity to sit next to the late, great John Lewis, who was deeply devoted to civil rights, not only here in America, but around the world. For years, I proudly worked alongside him and the late Al C. Hastings Sr. to support funding in the state and foreign operations appropriations bill for programs that would foster diversity and inclusion in international affairs and provide protection for minority and indigenous populations abroad. And I'd like to thank the late Donald Payne Sr., who was a senior member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and who was very significant to me getting on the committee in the first instance. It was Donald whose work advocating for greater diversity in the United States development workforce earned his name on USAID's fellowship program, the Payne International Development Fellowship Program. And so as chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I have made it a priority for the committee to address the institutional barriers to the lack of diversity in our diplomatic and developmental workforce. In my first year, the committee succeeded in passing the first comprehensive reauthorization bill of the State Department in nearly 20 years. And the reauthorization included provisions to bolster diversity efforts within the department. Our work has already been and already has had an impact, including the State Department's establishment of a paid internship program, hopefully incentivizing top talent from historically excluded groups to consider the State Department for employment. It is my hope the department will continue these efforts and make all of the internships paid, because sometimes money becomes a barrier for people of color getting into public policy and foreign policy. And so, while we've seen some progress on the recruitment side, we must do better to address the institutional barriers to retention and promotion at all levels of the federal government, but especially at the mid and senior levels. So on Monday, I spoke with USAID's new Chief Diversity Officer, and while the administration has taken some great initial action, more must be done through sustained engagement across our national security agencies and from state and USAID to the Peace Corps and beyond. Our diplomatic and development workforce serves as the face of the United States abroad, and it is critical that this workforce reflect the great diversity of our great nation, not just because it's the right thing to do, but we know that our national security is improved when unique perspectives and backgrounds drives our foreign policy. And we are lucky to have the first and second generation Americans working to serve our national security interests in the very regions from which they or their families originated. And their insights and experience greatly serve our relationships and policy goals. I'm proud to see Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield, like myself, a descendant of slaves, representing the United States at the UN. She's not only advocated for greater diversity, but has modeled it herself, inviting candidates to join the long and proud legacy of diverse diplomats making a difference. We are living through a critical time for the United States foreign policy. Authoritarianism is threatening the democratic and rules-based systems. The existential crisis of climate change continues to cause catastrophic damage. And COVID-19 has shown our vulnerability to pandemics and their economic, social, and political ripple effects, which knows no borders. The world is smaller, but more interconnected than ever before. And isolationism will not barricade us from the threats that are inevitably global in nature. So America needs to lead and inspire coalitions to address the collective issues we face. To accomplish that, we need our nation's best talent serving in the federal government. And that's why in my capacity as chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, I'm committed to improving both recruitment and retention of employees belonging to historically excluded groups in the agencies which my committee has jurisdiction, and it's implementing partners to have the best our nation has to offer on the front lines. So I close by saying simply this. I am honored to be here today. When I saw and listened to the Prime Minister of Greenland, I was told he's only 37 years old. And when I look and know that, especially my relationship with President Duque, I have to just say, I've seen President Duque and have known him before he was the president, and seen his commitment in Colombia. I have a special relationship with Colombia. And I've seen the growth as a minister that President Duque, and talking about including diversity and remembering the people from the Pacific coast of Colombia, bringing them into government and making it a difference. That, my friends, lets me know that the Wilson Center, with the Trotter Award, is focused on what's right for our nation and the world. What you are doing, and all those who are part of the Wilson Center, acknowledging Mr. Trotter, given the history of Mr. President Wilson, tells me without a shadow of a doubt that you are trying to make this place we call the planet Earth better for our children and our grandchildren than our today or yesterday. So I want to thank all of the members, all the staff, and everyone from the Wilson Center for being that shiny example that makes this place that we call the planet Earth a safer, a better, and more inclusive place. Thank you all, and may God bless each and every one of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Wilson Center's Polar Institute's Chair, Distinguished Fellow, and Chair to the U.S. Arctic Research Commission, Dr. Mike Shrega, to the stage.
Thank you, everyone. Would you please be seated? Thank you. We're only done with half of the celebrations and recognitions. Thank you. Out of all the honorees and those who presented before me, I have to say, I don't know if it's a point of privilege or just that I'd like to do this in front of my friends and colleagues. Really, what an incredible, John Thon, thank you for sharing your story and the way you did it. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I am honored to present the Daniel Patrick Moynihan Award for Congressional Service to my senator from the state of Alaska, Lisa Murkowski. We know her as our senior senator. You know her as our senior senator. You know her as a stateswoman, someone who deserves this award. In Alaska, we know her as Lisa. And there's a reason for that. Because we see each other so often, and the ties that bind us are our missions. There's a sense of urgency, not just about the state of Alaska, but about the Arctic, and I will tell you about our nation. And it is indeed an honor as an Alaskan to stand here before you and be with my senior senator from our state. This award, named after Senator Moynihan, it's done for many reasons, including the fact that he was a thought leader. He embodied the Wilsonian vision of international affairs and engagement. He was an ambassador, an advisor to 4 presidents, served for nearly a quarter of a century in Congress. and worked across aisles. He bridged gaps between government and academia. He enabled thoughts and ideas to be realized through leadership and actions, all to advance a nation. Many of you know Senator Moynihan. You know that he's famous for a few quotes. So let me introduce the senator through a few quotes. I think his time-honored quote was, "Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but not their own facts." Thank you for saying it before I did. Thank you very much. This is now the audience participation part. This is good. But not their own facts. Senator Murkowski does have opinions. They're driven by fact. You can't work across the aisle and bridge gaps, come to commonality, which has been a theme this evening, without having the facts. He has another famous quote, which I took out of many readings. "What is not discussed will not be advanced." Senator Murkowski has had the bravery, the drive, perhaps the fortitude to have those very difficult discussions and make important decisions after having those discussions. What is not discussed will not be advanced. She's done that on behalf of this nation in a nonpartisan, bipartisan way. I thought about Senator Moynihan and legacy. I think about Senator Murkowski and legacy. And to Mike Sfraga, legacy means this: excellence over time. Senator Moynihan, Senator Murkowski, legacy over time. Senator Moynihan thought and acted beyond the lines of political parties, perhaps not all the time, but often. Senator Murkowski, from the great state of Alaska, thinks and acts beyond the lines of political parties, beyond the lines of political ideologies, and beyond state borders. Everyone knows she's our chief advocate for the state of Alaska, and known domestically and internationally as our Arctic ambassador. But also you need to know that it's done on behalf of a nation. This is your nation's senator, positioning the state of Alaska and the Arctic to be more important to our nation. But not just the Arctic. A full portfolio of issues across the aisle have been accomplished by the senator because she believes in that Congress must work, and it's her role to help Congress work. So beside from being a leading Arctic voice, she thinks and acts beyond the lines that are defined solely by election cycles. She thinks and acts to turn these lines that define and sometimes divide us into pathways, lines into roadmaps. How do we move forward together? Legacy is excellence over time. We recognize and honor Senator Murkowski tonight with the Daniel Patrick Moynihan Award for congressional service because of her long-standing public service and bipartisan leadership, as well as her dedication to addressing our nation's pressing domestic and foreign policy. She has done so, as you have seen, with dignity, honor, candor, driven by fact. And finally, Senator, I want to thank you for what you have done for the Wilson Center. We know you have been one of our chief advocates. You have helped guide us, you've enabled us, you've supported us. And the Polar Institute would not be what it is today without your support, your guidance and friendly advice, and you talking about the very importance of having this center craft a place for the Arctic. But thank you, Senator, for doing what you do for us each and every day. It shows us that there are places within Congress that can and should work for the benefit of our country. It is now a pleasure to introduce to you this year's awardee, my senior senator and my friend, Lisa Murkowski.
Mike, thank you. Thank you for the genuine words. And they are spoken from the heart, I know. Mike and I go back a long ways. We share a love for the Arctic, but we also share a love for just getting in, rolling up the sleeves, and doing what's right. And I thank you for your leadership and your guidance. I thank the Wilson Center because what you have here this evening, those that you have gathered to recognize so many of us, I shouldn't say so many, but a discrete group of us, but a recognition that this is about service before self. This is about inclusivity. This is about truly being the best that we can be, and how the Wilson Center promotes that for all is greatly and deeply, deeply appreciated. I thank Mike for his comments with regards to the Wilson Center Polar Institute and what that has become. It is the thought center, if you will, for issues that relate to the activities in the Arctic, whether it be defense, whether it be environment, or whether it be the health and well-being of its peoples. But to have this considered focus is something that I'm very proud of what the Institute has built, and very proud to have been there to support just that. Governor Haslam, thank you. I want to acknowledge you, Ambassador Green, as well as the Board of Trustees who lead this very important bipartisan think tank. We just appreciate all that all of you do to provide accurate and unbiased and truthful information to policymakers and to the public. And I think it's important to underscore that. It's been mentioned before that you can't have alternate facts. Our reality is that you cannot get to solutions unless there is a shared acknowledgement of the facts on which you are operating. And so I thank the Wilson Center for focusing in that area. You are honest brokers, you have sound and developed insight, and that's why the world pays attention to what you have to say here and how you facilitate it. It is indeed an honor, though, to be recognized this evening with the Moynihan Award from the Wilson Center, and I appreciate, Mike, what you have outlined in some of the quotes, some that are quite memorable. I never had an opportunity to serve with Senator Moynihan. He left Washington, D.C. Actually, I guess he had passed away just before I had actually come back here, but certainly knew of him, certainly legendary in so many ways. And so to know that I am being recognized this evening as a bipartisan leader in Congress is quite the honor and the tribute, but I will share with you, I kind of find it a little bit unnerving and perhaps even a little bit scary to think that we're giving awards for something that just should be common business. So we can get back to this. We can get back to the bipartisanship, and that's what we must do. As you look through the actual kind of the contours of the Moynihan Award, it notes that this award is given to those who commit to seek out informed opinions and thoughtful views. And I read that, and I thought, wow, I really am touched that I would be recognized for seeking out informed opinions, because it is a matter of course in how I approach the issues and the problems of the day in front of me. Just before coming over here, we were just wrapping up a vote, and a colleague of mine said that he was going out to a dinner this evening that was recognizing the Sandy Hook Promise organization, focused on what we might do as we address gun violence in this country after the terrible shootings at Sandy Hook. And I recalled to my colleague that one of the most impactful meetings that I have had in my tenure here in the United States Senate was shortly after the shooting at Sandy Hook. And a group of parents who had lost their children were asking to come and visit members in their offices. And they couldn't get a Republican to sit with them. And I said, of course, I will meet with these parents. And they came in, and we started the conversation, and they said, we wanted to come and visit with you specifically because we come from a part of the country where guns are not our way of life. We come from Connecticut. Guns are scary. You come from a state like Alaska. You come from a place where we don't understand your view. We want to understand you. And I listened to that, and I thought, how incredible for a group to want to try to understand, in the midst of their own personal grief, to try to better understand an issue. And from that day, from that meeting, I have said, I've got to open my mind. I need to listen to those who come from a different view, a different perspective. Because how can I learn? I have my world. I have my understanding. But we are a wild, diverse, amazing country. And we can only embrace the wildness and the diversity and celebrate that if we respect and understand who everybody else is. And so, how we can keep those doors open, how we can keep our minds open so we can have conversations based on civility and respect for one another and where we come from. This is our great challenge today. And we are polarized. We are polarized like no time I have seen. But it doesn't mean that we cannot come together, that we cannot bring people into the center. We cannot try to govern more from the middle. But it's when we give up and say it's too hard and we seek comfort from the respective zones on either side that we stop listening to one another, that we are not able to engage in that civil discourse, that we're not able to reach out and to gain that informed knowledge upon which we can make sound decisions, not based on what's good for Republicans or what's good for Democrats, but what's good for the country. And so we've got much in front of us. We have much in front of us that challenges us on every given day. But whether it's something like how you build consensus on an infrastructure bill that will benefit people from across the country, or how you work to build consensus to address the issues of violence against women and what more we can do to keep women and children safe in our communities. The people of this country, from Alaska all the way to Maine, expect us to come together to do the job for them, and that's what we need to keep in the front of our minds. That's why an award like you have granted me this evening, the Moynihan Award, is special, is significant. And I thank you. I thank you for the reminder that we all can do better, that we all must do better. And the Wilson Center helps remind us and ground us in just that. So thank you all. God bless.
Please welcome President and CEO of the Wilson Center, Ambassador Mark Green, to the stage.
What a great evening And what a remarkable group of leaders it is that we honor tonight. The late Father Ted Hesburgh of Notre Dame once wrote, "The very essence of leadership is that you have to have a vision. You can't blow an uncertain trumpet." Now, that's actually pretty easy to do when seas are calm and there's a breeze at your back. Real leadership is only revealed when there are storm clouds on your watch. When tonight's Global Public Service honoree took office, he inherited a country that was already divided over the peace accords. And then came the largest mass migration event in the history of the Americas, as millions of Venezuelans fled Maduro's tyranny and mismanagement. On top of that, there was COVID-19 and the economic havoc that it wreaked. Hardly calm seas. So I met President Duque before he even took office at the Concordia Summit in Bogota. It was right after he was elected. And I was immediately impressed with his vision for Colombia's future. I'm even more impressed today because despite the multiple challenges that emerged, he has never abandoned his principles or that vision that I heard back in Bogota. And there's a lot to show for that approach. With COVID winding down, Colombia is back on track to grow by 6.1% this year. He has led Colombia to increase its share of non-traditional renewable energy sources from 0.5% in 2018 to 14% this year. He's led Colombia to pursue new economic opportunities well beyond traditional lines. For example, into the creative industries or orange sector, as it is called. It's brought hundreds of millions of dollars in new investments, thousands of new jobs, even the production of an award-winning Disney film, Encanto. If you haven't seen it, shame on you. But if you got kids or grandkids, I'm not worried. You'll see it. You'll see it a bunch of times. Colombia has become America's 25th largest trading partner, a member of the OECD, a major non-NATO ally, all during times of challenge and all on Duque's watch. In what the UN High Commissioner for Refugees has called the greatest humanitarian gesture in the Americas in modern times, last year President Duque created temporary protected status for nearly 2 million Venezuelans who sought safety in Colombia. So my friends, in short, while Maduro has destroyed Venezuela, Ortega has torn apart Nicaragua, and Diaz-Canel has continued Castro's oppression in Cuba, President Duque has been unwavering in his support for democracy, private enterprise, liberty, and human dignity. The Wilson Center's Global Public Service Award is given to individuals who have served with distinction in public life and shown a special commitment to seeking out informed opinions. They have poured their time, talent, and resources into improving lives, lifting lives, and building a brighter future for others throughout the world. Few people better fit the bill than our honoree tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present this award to my friend and your friend, President Duque of Colombia.
Thank you so much. Mark, thank you for those great words that really touched my heart. Thank you, Ambassador, because you have been a friend and a true ally. And I have to say that those words mean a lot to me, but many of the things that you mentioned as accomplishments would not have been made without your help. And I have to say this tonight. The Woodrow Wilson Center would not be in better hands than yours in this time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to be here in Washington, D.C., and to be here in this year awards of the Wilson Center. It is an honor for me to share this award also with such a marvelous group of public servants, business leaders, and people who have walked the walk, talked the talk, and make things happen. It is a moment of very much political complexity in the one we live in. And Senator, I was listening carefully to your words and to Mike's words, and one of my favorite phrases is the one that you mentioned from Daniel Patrick Moynihan, that in politics, you're entitled to your own opinions, but not to your own facts. And we live now in a VUCA world: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And that condition has been even more complex since we are seeing that today it seems that likes, clicks, and hashtags are more important than the truth. So governing in these times is also challenging. And if we really want to embrace leadership, we have to think that what is more important is to get things done, to be close to your principles, to be close to your objectives, to be close to your values. And 4 years ago, when I assumed office, I knew the challenges that we were facing. And I said throughout the campaign that I was not going to use the rear mirror, that I was going to look forward, that I was going to work hard for my country. And in the last days, I've been writing about the administration for a letter that I'm going to share with the Colombian people before my term ends. And I was thinking that in Colombia, there's no re-election. We have a 4-year term, which is 48 months in office. And I'm going to be more than 30 months in office dealing with the pandemic of COVID-19, 62% of my term. And I realized, as I was writing, that my favorite word is resilience. And maybe the best way to define it is to change adversity into an opportunity. When I assumed office, we were having a major migration crisis. Our brothers and sisters from Venezuela were crossing the border with frozen bones, lacking the access to healthcare services. People entering our territory without hope. And that simply is unethical in the world we live in. And we live in moments where people look at these kinds of phenomena either with indifference in some parts of the world or with the negative sentiment of xenophobia. So we said since day one, we were born together. We're Siamese nations. We shared our first constitution that was published in the 6th of October, 1821. And it had this marvelous Article 83 where it said that all foreigners in Colombia will have the same rights as the citizens. That was said in our first constitution. And we are not a rich country. And obviously we have to take a big fiscal burden. But we said we're going to have an open door policy. We're going to grant nationality to more than 27,000 children who were at the brink of being considered without any sort of nationality, in apartheid as it's been called technically. And we also said that even though it will be costly, we will make a policy happen where people can be visible, look for a job, access the social security system, be able to open a bank account and contribute to the economy. And many people told me it was unpopular. But I said, what the hell with popularity? Because you have to do what's right when it comes to those decisions. And I remember I called my friend Mark Green. And I said, Mark, we're going for it. But we're going to do it in a technical way, in an organized way, in a sustainable way. And we went step by step. And last year, we signed a decree giving for 10 years a temporary protection status to 1.8 million Venezuelan brothers and sisters. What touched me when we made the decision with our team, it was that we need to move fast. And I remember that last year when Mark also had a conversation with me about that decision, I said, we want to deliver 1 million TPS cards in 1 year. And we're going to get to the 1.8 in a year and a half, 1.8 million. Ladies and gentlemen, as of today, 1.1 million Venezuelans have in their hands their TPS cards in Colombia to access to all these services. And we demonstrated something that regularly happens. I remember I had a conversation with Professor Dani Bahar, a Venezuelan American who's a professor in various universities. And he said, looking to the example of Colombia, everybody said that if we open that door, we're going to have a rise in unemployment. Others said that we were going to have a rise in poverty. And others said that we were going to have a rise in informality. I have 51 more days in office, and I can tell you that there are 3 ways that we have demonstrated that they were wrong who thought that way. Because today, we have not only recovered our employment numbers before the pandemic, but we have reached the lowest informality rate ever in the Colombian labor force since we used that indicator. And we have also made possible that we have reached the lowest multidimensional poverty since we used that indicator. And we have also demonstrated that when people are visible, when they have an opportunity, they certainly contribute to improve our conditions. But those results would have not happened without the support of the United States of America, of USAID, and also your support, Mark. And today, ladies and gentlemen, as we look at that specific challenge and the way that we have been able to address it, we have also seen that in the midst of this complexity and uncertainty of COVID-19, we didn't allow politics to drive our response to the crisis. We relied on science, and we tried to have always on our side the medical doctors in order to do all the pedagogy to the Colombian society. And I feel proud that we have achieved more than 84% vaccination rate in Colombia. And we feel proud that that massive equitable vaccination campaign, where nobody has been left behind, and the doubling of the ICU capacity in the country, has gone hand in hand with 2 objectives. I remember when the crisis of COVID-19 emerged, people used to say that President Duque was privileging the economy and the jobs and not the healthcare system. And I said, there's no dilemma. We need to protect the lives of the people, but we also need to protect the lives of the small, medium, and large-size enterprises that generate jobs. They both have to be sorted out together in an intelligent way. And we were able to create a plan to save 4.1 million workers, to continue with their jobs, formal workers. And we were also able to make the largest expansion of the social safety net in Colombia, passing from 3 million recipients of conditional and non-conditional cash transfers to 11 million families. And that has kept people protected. And it has also allowed us to move forward. But what is also very important is that in this crisis that brought us the biggest economic hit ever, we demonstrated that with a pro-business focus, with a pro-economic liberties focus, and with efficient investment in infrastructure, either public or private, in our equivalent of the 21st century New Deal in Colombia, we allowed the economy to recover, and last year we reached the highest economic growth in our history, 10.6%. And we expect this year not only to grow above 6%, but the first trimester of this year, we grew 8.5%, which means the best first trimester of this century. Foreign direct investment in the midst of this crisis, not related to energy and mining, has grown 196% in this 4 years in office. But the most important accomplishment is also looking for the poorest of the poor and closing the social gaps. And I feel also proud that we're going to leave as a legacy that for the first time in Colombian history, the emerging middle class and the poorest of the poor will have free tuition in public universities and also in technical and technological public schools in the country. And this is also happening at the time where we have been able to expand the ownership of property by Colombians, low-income ones. More than 70% of the people that have benefited from our program of housing and the housing subsidies are people who are under 2 minimum wages of income. Those are things that make us feel proud. And those are facts. And those are facts that we regularly want to embrace, to tell the people that more than likes, clicks, and hashtags, in a world of politics that sometimes is driven by hatred and where people are sometimes driven by new leadership to be confrontational, because what matters is how much confrontational you are and not how much you can be able to bridge solutions together. These are things that speak by their own. And I am very honored to receive this award. I have big appreciation for the Woodrow Wilson Center and a big admiration. And being 51 days away from the end of my administration, I have to say that the most important thing that we have to learn from leadership is that leadership is not to do what's popular. Leadership is do what's right. And when I look at Latin America, and I said this last week, we can't take democracy for granted. We can't. Democracy is like health. When we have it, we don't regularly value it. When we lose it, we want to do whatever it takes to recover it. We can't take democracy for granted in Latin America because democracy in Latin America, it's been regularly challenged nowadays by populism, post-truth, and polarization. And if we want to protect democracy in the Western Hemisphere, we have to look at Latin America because Latin America is not divided between right and left. It is a debate between Democrats and autocrats. The ones that believe that having the right to choose makes a difference, and those who want to impose their prejudices and their interest with violence, as it has happened in Venezuela, in Nicaragua, in Cuba, and in some other places. We have to make this call together. And we have to condemn the dictatorships. We can't be shy. We have to raise our voice and clearly face the battle as we have done in Colombia. That's the reason why I denounced Nicolás Maduro before the International Criminal Court. And that's the reason why we have to look at this region if we want to solve other major crises in the world. And I will make a brief reference on this. Latin America is a strategic part of the solution to the climate crisis we face. We have the Amazon, which is almost the size of the United States without Alaska, almost. We have also thousands, millions of square kilometers of maritime areas. We have more than 70% of the world's high-altitude ecosystems, better known as páramos. And we have countries that are carbon negative, as Panama, or countries like Colombia, where 35% of our territory is Amazonic land and 50% is tropical forest. We have the conditions to become exporters of green hydrogen through non-conventional renewable energies. And I feel proud to leave a legacy in Colombia where not in 2030, this year, we're going to get 30% of our territory being declared a protected area. And if a country like Colombia does it, we want other countries to follow. Latin America is a part of that solution. And I want you all to look at this region with pride, with love, but also knowing that friendshoring can be a very important solution. Because when a factory is installed in Latin America, it's not only close to market, but it generates opportunities. And maybe people don't realize when it has been talked about competitiveness, people talk about where it's cheap to produce or how productive we are, but we never thought on the environment. And the fact is, for example, a country like Colombia has one of the lowest amount of emissions per point of GDP. So a dollar invested there is a greener dollar than invested other places. Ladies and gentlemen, all this has been embraced in the midst of a pandemic. Many of my friends that are here accompanied me in my oath of office. And we had a lot of thunders and rain. And people never knew what was going to happen afterwards. But all I can say that I have those rememberings because it was a big storm. And I remember that my teleprompter shut it down. For the first time that I used a teleprompter, it was heavily complicated for me. But that day I understood that I have to keep on following my heart and that speech that I have planned for many years, wanting to govern Colombia. Today, I have to express that we have a legacy that we feel proud, but we have to continue, after we finish our term, defending these values. And I take this award as a message that after the presidency, we will continue defending democracy, we will continue defending equality, we will continue defending migration, and we will continue defending the climate action that is needed. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage George Waldenberg.
So just another round of applause for all of our honorees and awardees this evening. Thank you so much. I want to thank you for joining us for the 2022 Wilson Awards dinner. This has been a testament to the achievements of our honorees. It has also been a wonderful opportunity to highlight the Wilson Center's legacy for more than 50 years. I do hope that you will all continue to engage with us as part of the Wilson Center community, particularly as our experts continue on our mission of tackling some of the world's most critical challenges of our time. Please have a wonderful evening, and thank you very much for joining us.